the most outlandish movies need to present consistent and believable character logic, and ultimately, it's totally fine for characters to do stupid and absurd things, since we do them every day, right? It just has to be plausible within the context of their prior behaviour and the overall story. Of course, writing believable people is hard, and it's far more common that films fail to justify a character's ridiculous behaviour in the long run, with the result being that the all-important suspension of disbelief is thoroughly derailed. These are the movies that were impacted severely by the idiosyncratic, eyebrow-raising, and straight-up inane choices their characters made, condemning themselves and others to some seriously unnecessary fates. Whether it's the results of writers getting lazy or backing themselves into a tough dramatic corner, all we want is some respect. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with Whatculture, here with 10 insane character decisions that totally ruined movies. Number 10. Maisie frees the dinosaurs, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Because the first Jurassic World having its female protagonist run away from a T-Rex in high heels wasn't asinine enough, its sequel, Fallen Kingdom, decided to one-up it with its head-smackingly idiotic ending. Maintaining the Jurassic Park series' long-standing tradition of annoying child characters, the film reveals that Maisie is in fact a clone of her grandfather Benjamin Lockwood's dead daughter. So far, so dumb, right? Well, it gets worse. The whole clone subplot is ultimately just an attempt to justify Maisie's final decision to release the dinosaurs into civilization after a gas leak threatens to kill them. This completely ignores the fact that the dinosaurs are now going to rampage their way across the US until they're inevitably slaughtered by the trigger-happy US military. So all Maisie accomplished was buying the dinos a little time, getting some innocent humans pointlessly killed, and ensuring the dinosaurs suffer decidedly more brutal deaths in the near future. Good going! To be clear, Fallen Kingdom is a mind-numbingly silly film as it is, but this climactic decision pushed it over the edge from amusing trash into genuinely insulting. Number 9. Jar Jar gives Palpatine emergency powers, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. When you consider the facts, Jar Jar Binks is effectively responsible for the rise of the Galactic Empire. In Attack of the Clones, he acts as a delegate to the Galactic Senate, and his impassioned speech convinces them to grant Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers. This eventually leads to Palpatine overthrowing the Senate, the Empire rising, and democracy ending for trillions of people. And you know what? It's one of the prequel trilogy's more fully formed ideas. In theory. The notion of Palpatine exploiting a trusting and naive politician to his own nefarious ends makes a lot of sense, but did it have to be Jar Jar? Given that the character served as nothing more than merch bait in The Phantom Menace, integrating him into the plot in such a significant way here places an unnecessary dramatic black mark on the Empire's rise. The Sith will now forever be linked to Jar Jar's stupidity. Number 8. Nobody wears a helmet on an uncharted planet, Alien Covenant. There are many silly decisions made by the characters of Ridley Scott's Prometheus. None more so than scientists freely removing their helmets on an uncharted planet. The fan outcry was strong enough that Scott promised the sequel, Alien Covenant, would rectify this issue while hewing closer to the core alien mythos fans know and love. And then the movie came out. Even accepting Captain Orum's ill-advised choice to detour from their planned route to check out a nearby planet for possible habitation, the fact that the colonists set foot on the planet's surface without any protective gear, let alone helmets, is just infuriating. Unsurprisingly, it's not long before a member of the team becomes infected with a black goo spore, which could have been prevented by wearing a helmet. And alas, you know what happens next. Now, nobody's asking that these movies have entirely watertight character logic, but repeating one of Prometheus's most universally reviled decisions just smacks of either laziness or arrogance or both. Number 7. Superman gives Lois an amnesia kiss, Superman 2. In Superman 2, Lois Lane finds out that Clark Kent is indeed Superman, and the end of the film sees her struggling to come to terms with this fact. So Clark decides to arse-pull a new superpower totally out of nowhere by planting a passionate kiss on Lois's lips, which erases her memory of his superhero alter ego. Even if you can accept the totally nonsensical mechanics of the power, it's pretty uncomfortable and creepy. Frustratingly, it takes an icky ignorance is bliss approach to the Lois-Clark dynamic and undoes the genuinely intriguing wrinkle of Lois knowing that Clark is Superman. Diminishing Lois and Clark's romance had the knock-on effect of relegating her to a mere cameo role in the third film, and though she returned for a more substantial part in the fourth, her relationship with Clark took a backseat once again, this time to Nuclear Man. All because of that damn kiss! Thankfully, the amnesia kiss isn't present in the Richard Donner cut of the movie, but the version that most people have actually seen is unmistakably tainted by Clark effectively giving Lois a roofie kiss. Yikes. Number 6. Leonidas pisses off a vindictive hunchback, 300. Early in 300, Leonidas meets with Spartan Ephialtes, who wishes to join Leonidas' ranks and even provides intel of a secret path the Persians may use to flank them. Leonidas rather curtly rejects his request due to Ephialtes' inability to hold up a shield as a result of his hunchback. So Ephialtes consequently defects to Persia and tells them about the secret passageway and more or less hands the Persians a victory. This could have all been easily avoided had Leonidas simply given Ephialtes something else to do that made him feel vaguely part of the action. Have him work intel, send him off to fight with another army, or just place him behind the Spartans' precious phalanx. Letting the man who knows your army's only weakness walk into the enemy camp is mind-bogglingly stupid from a military strategy perspective. Leonidas basically played himself, which sucks a lot of the epic majesty out of his heroic final moments. Number 5. Q plugs Silver's laptop directly into MI6, Skyfall. After MI6 captures Raoul Silver midway through the movie, his laptop is given to Q, who plugs it directly into the MI6 mainframe in order to decrypt its contents. Unsurprisingly, Silver's laptop then hacks MI6 and allows Silver to make his escape, all while anyone with even the most rudimentary tech know-how is wondering why a supposed gadget genius would plug a cyber-terrorist laptop into a government's computer system. You don't need much knowledge of IT or state security policy to know that such a test should be conducted in a separate closed system, and Q flouting obvious protocols so brazenly infuriated fans enough that a fan theory suggesting he was a double agent all along was created in order to explain it away. As many great things as there are in this film, Q's inconceivable stupidity here presents a logical hole so big you could drive a tube train through it, which incidentally is exactly what happens. For the rest of the film, it's tough to shake the nagging feeling that Silver would still be in jail if not for Q acting uncharacteristically dumb because plot. Number 4. Laurie hesitates to kill Michael, Halloween Resurrection. One of the reasons that Halloween's Laurie Strode became an iconic final girl in the first place is that she was presented as both smart and resourceful, traits that were completely thrown out with her fan service-heavy, paycheck-grabbing appearance in 2002's awful 8th film, Halloween Resurrection. Laurie has a trap set for Michael in the opening moments, and even when he takes the bait and ends up hanging upside down, Laurie hesitates to cut the rope and send him to his death, fearing that she might again end up killing the wrong man. As a result, she slowly tries to remove Michael's mask and confirm the kill, forgetting that the Shape still has his hands free, allowing him to get the better of her and eventually stab her to death. Whoops! Now, Halloween Resurrection is a cracktastic entry into the franchise for many reasons. The worst, in fact. But this not only got the film off to an immediately sour note, it fatally undermined a character known for making smart decisions. Furthermore, the marketing implied that Laurie had a much larger role than a mere opening cameo, and fans had to wait an entire 16 years for Laurie's dumb, self-inflicted death to be undone with the soft reboot sequel. Number 3. Don kisses his obviously infected wife 28 weeks later. The sequel to Danny Boyle's cult classic horror flick peaks in its very opening scene, as Don, his wife Alice, and a few fellow survivors find their idyllic cottage getaway attacked by a horde of rabid people infected with the Rage virus. Don makes the impossible decision to escape without his wife after he sees her being overcome by the infected, but it later turns out that Alice in fact survived and is an asymptomatic carrier of the virus. Don, overcome with shock at Alice's survival, begs her forgiveness, which she does grant him. Don then passionately kisses her, transmitting the Rage virus to him, at which point he immediately turns violent and murders Alice by driving his thumbs into her eye sockets. Now, while you could argue that Don didn't know about his wife being a Rage carrier, and you can can maybe cut him some slack because he assumed his wife was dead, you also don't need to be a scientist to appreciate that you might not want to slobber over your partner's lips when they've been missing for ages and aren't looking too healthy. Even if you're unaware of the concept of asymptomatic infection, it's definitely sensible to err on the side of caution. A hug probably would have been fine, to be honest. Number 2. Evelyn gets pregnant during an alien invasion. A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place is a terrifically well-crafted thriller about a family trying to survive an invasion by a blind alien species with supernatural hearing abilities. But sitting back and enjoying the movie requires audiences to leap over one significant dramatic hurdle. The fact that Evelyn Abbott and her husband Lee decided to conceive a child well aware that they're in the midst of an alien apocalypse. The movie's defenders will argue that they did so to replace the child they lost in the film's opening sequence, but maybe it's a smarter decision to focus on saving the two children you've got left and yourselves rather than bringing a screaming banshee into the world. Okay, sure, the conception could have been an accident. What they do in their spare time is entirely up to them, but the pregnancy plot ultimately just feels like sentimental baggage intended to artificially up the tension in a movie where it's already thoroughly palpable. No matter how well directed and sharply acted the film otherwise is, it's incredibly tough to reconcile this character logic when everything else is so tight. Number 1. Basically everything Charlie does. The Purge. It's the characterization of the Sandin family's son, Charlie, that effectively sets the movie's primary conflict in motion, through his multifaceted idiocy, ultimately getting his own father, James, killed. Good going, Charlie! After the purge has begun and the Sandins are safely locked down in their fancy home, Charlie notices a wounded man calling for help outside, and rather than maintain the safety of their family fortress, he disables the security system and lets the man inside. Remember, this is the Purge night, and he has no idea who this man is. Now there's compassion, and then there's blindly doing something without even remotely thinking about the consequences to yourself or others. It's just not very believable, and underlines the film's general dramatic disappointment.